No matter if you're a first-time author or a famous novelist, working with an editor is one of the key parts of the writing process. Even internationally best-selling authors have editors and work very closely with them to develop their stories. So today I'm going to give you the 3 key reasons why all writers need an editor, and they honestly might not be what you think. Admittedly, I am biased as an editor myself, but I got into this business because I love working with writers on strengthening their stories, and I really do see the value and the confidence that working with an editor instills in them. And if you're interested in writing and publishing, subscribe to my channel. That is the bread and butter of my videos, and I cover these types of topics every single week. So before I give you the 3 key reasons why all writers need an editor, I want to talk a little bit about what I mean when I say working with an editor. I am not talking about copy editing and proofreading, so catching grammar errors, catching spelling mistakes. While all of those things are very important and should definitely be a part of your writing process before you put that story anywhere into the world, it's not what I'm talking about here, because editing actually goes far beyond catching grammar and spelling mistakes. What I'm talking about is what we call developmental or structural editing. This is often the first stage of editing that a story will go through. It assesses things like your point of view, your structure, the organization, how you actually relate the story to the reader. So this is really a more macro level. Proofreading and copy editing is really more of the micro level. Again, both are super important, but I just wanted to give you that perspective so that you know what I'm really talking about today is more of the developmental big picture editing. The first reason why this type of editing is so critical for any writer is just the fact that you are too close to your own work to really see the flaws in it. An editor provides a really critical and fresh perspective on your draft. They're coming at it from a third-party perspective. They don't know everything that went into it. They don't know where you got the idea. They don't even know what story you're trying to tell until they dive in themselves. Because you are so in the thick of it and you're just in the weeds, you really can't see the forest from the trees. This is where the editor's perspective can really come in and help give you clarity. For example, something that might make perfect sense to you whenever you read through your draft might actually not make sense to your readers, but you won't really be able to determine that unless you have that secondary perspective come in and help you identify it. So again, self-editing is really important, but it's not going to catch every error in your story, and it's not always going to help you elevate it to the next level in the way that having an external editor working with you would. The second reason why editors are critical is because an editor helps you see beyond what's on the page. As I said before, editing goes way beyond just fixing and correcting spelling and grammar errors that you see in the document itself. It's also about discovering what's not on the page that really should be. A good editor will provide ideas on how to deepen the story that you're trying to tell. Maybe they're going to offer an idea that you hadn't even thought about, but you decide is actually important to the story. For example, maybe you end up adding a whole other character's perspective, or you end up developing their backstory. Perhaps you realize that you really need to change the setting or maybe add more details to bring the setting to life. All of these are things that maybe you don't necessarily see whenever you're looking at your manuscript, but the editor comes in and brings that broader perspective and can determine what is going to actually really enrich your story and make it even more effective than it already is. If you're hoping to publish your story in some capacity, working with an editor is also really important because they can help you determine how to shape the story so that it really resonates with the intended readers, or if you are looking to publish it within a certain genre, they can really assess that and help you determine what's not in the current draft that needs to be so that it really does fit that intended genre. And lastly, working with a good editor should ultimately make you a better writer. The goal of any editor is to help you strengthen your writing and your storytelling ability. It is about you and your story. It is not about the editor's opinion. It is not about the editor's vision for the story. It is about yours. That's why I really approach editing as a partnership. It's really about how we can together make your vision come to life in the most effective way. It's not my vision, it's not anyone else's vision but yours. And my feedback is all in an effort to help that vision be a reality. Ideally, the feedback that you get on this story is actually going to help you strengthen the next one and the next one and the next one that you write. So it's really kind of a compounding benefit. And as I said before, editing really should be a partnership and a collaboration. I feel like writers often get the impression that an editor just comes in, hacks up the page, red marks everywhere, tells them what's wrong, and then leaves them to figure out their issues. That's not really my approach to editing. I don't think that's how the partnership should be or what it should look like. It really should be a collaborative effort with a two-way street going both ways. So yes, I might deliver a document that has a ton of red text on it with all of the, my suggestions that I've added. But from there, we're going to have a dialogue on why those changes are more effective. And if you come in and say something like, I didn't necessarily agree with that approach, then you and the editor should have that conversation. And ultimately, you're going to end up in a place where your vision for the story is retained, but ideally also the editor brought something to light that you hadn't realized before, and you both feel like that is a much stronger version of the passage. So I hope these reasons help you see the value in working with an editor to strengthen your writing no matter what type of project you're currently working on. If you have any questions at all about working with an editor, leave me a comment below and I will get back to you. I'd also like to hear if you have any personal experiences of working with an editor and what that looked like. I will say not all editors approach their work the same way I do. Not all editors are going to have all the same opinions about editing that I just shared today. I would love to hear if you had any types of experiences and what your relationships with editors has been like. If you are interested in working with an editor, I recommend checking out my video on the steps to take to find an editor. That will help ensure you're really finding the right editorial match. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button below so that YouTube also knows that you found it helpful. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button. I talk a lot about writing, publishing, editing, books, so if any of that interests you at all, I would love to have you around. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.